starting. Hang on. Okay.
Live stream. There we go.
All
Now
right.
we got to get it all over Facebook, so everyone needs to share it. We need to.
Do you have the link? Go to the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and you'll see there's a link.
Let me see here. That's weird. It doesn't show me any links. Like, I hate this thing. I'm no good at this stuff.
I have.
All right, so the weird thing is that I noticed that inside my email is where it allowed me to access the chat, whereas before it wouldn't let me. It was telling me you're not allowed to join this chat. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's so weird.
So that's good. At least we got that side of it figured out now. Oh, yeah.
I have the links right here. We copy this. Guess I go
Get
on.
it all over Facebook.
Yeah,
All right. Aha. I see. I just got the. Let's see. Send the link in the you can send the link through Messenger as well to everybody.
I can. Yep.
With March Fiasco, we are in the bubble nest with Pokeball.
Yes.
Pokeball.
All right, there we go. I'm on right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the link with you. Hang on 1 second here. Where's my chat here? There we go. All right, you are. There we go. Type it right here. Paste. Bam. There's the link right there.
There we go. Share it. Let's see.
Would you be able to share that? It'd be a little easier.
Yeah, I think I can. So I'm gonna share it. Let's see. Send it to admin chat. Yeah.
There.
Send it to Michael, even though he's probably already got it. I'm wondering how many people we're gonna get in, because I can't see the chat from YouTube, so it's like
I can't even really see it either, so it's very weird.
I'm just going down my list and adding everyone.
Why can't I make a post on Green Oasis Farms? Oh, Mike just shared it on the Fish Keepers tube.
Oh, nice, awesome. So, seeing as we actually managed to finally get this going with, you know, a complete fiasco.
Right. Well, you know what? It was kind of weird, which is exactly what's gonna.
It just wanted us to act the way we're known, keeping it weird and just expect nothing less.
Apparently, that's what it's all about. Whatever. I guess it could be worse.
It could be worse.
I'm gonna try to share this in like one. Oh, you know what? That is exactly why it's not working. God, not only am I weird, but I'm kind of dumb too.
Yeah, well, I feel you there.
Literally, look at this. Look. Boom, there we go. Is a big thing with your face on it.
All right. Yay.
That would probably be the exact way to get it where people are going to see it.
There we go. I see it now. Yay, share. Oh, no, it's me.
All right, let me get one more. I just in the Green Oasis Farms page right here.
I can't even hit the space bar without like whack. I don't like this technology.
It is kind of weird technology. How do I
You're not going to ask me a technical question, right?
Well, no. How do I do my YouTube comments?
again, something else that I'm not great with is YouTube. I've come a long way with it. So
Were you doing it before though?
I was, but not this channel was my first channel. I never dreamed, like I've always watched YouTube for years, but I never actually thought that I would be the one sitting behind the screen and recording myself. And you know, it was it was I'm not even going to use the word weird. It was scary. Like at first for me it was like so daunting because I knew, especially being part of, and I know I'm probably going to get some heat for it, but being part of the beta community, I knew that my first few videos were going to probably be like, oh, look, it's a new girl. Look, let's go after her. So,
Nah, there's always heat. You always,
but it is what it is.
you
We
know,
all learn. And if we don't get some heat somewhere, we're not going to learn. So,
if I get any heat though, I'm just gonna pull out the guns. Oh, that's what you gotta do if you get heat. You just gotta take the bicep and the chest, and then you just gotta show everyone what kind of heat you can bring back. That's okay. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I see a group chat right here. Hang on, let me see something. You see that?
I don't see it. Oh, yes. How do we do that?
That there's a little group chat.
Oh, I see it now, I think.
Yeah, join. See, you have joined the group.
Ha ha ha. Okay, awesome.
So, oh, there's
She went that way.
who was that?
I saw her. She went that
I know. I want to chase after her, but I just even my dog's like, oh, where did she go? Because my dog was
way.
now she's just all wondering and stuff like that. Hold on, let me just bring it down a little bit. There she is. Say hi, girl.
Aw.
Look
Hey,
at that.
Papa.
She's like, what the hell's going on right now?
Everyone's got to do the big thumbs up for the Papa.
Yeah.
Everybody.
She's something else. Right, girl? That's some love action.
She's adorable. She's like, what is going on?
Still looking at it like, what is going on here?
I was sleeping.
Oh, there she goes.
Stop this.
Getting frisky. Oh my
She's
god.
adorable.
Thank you. Yeah,
She is adorable.
there she goes. She's on her back with the belly. So yeah.
Yep.
Now, all right. So I guess this is how we'll wait for some more people. I don't see if anyone else is in here right now.
YouTube has also been real sketchy with its notifications. So even though we've shared it out, you might not even. There was a live stream I was in, and on my screen it was saying there was like over 1,000 people in there, but the person who was doing the stream, it said there was only like 19 people in there. So it's real messed up right now. So that really doesn't help anything when we're trying to do these things. Plus the technical difficulty we went through to get it going.
Well, I do also only have like 50 subscribers, so it's like
it doesn't matter. That's fine.
I would, but whatever though. It's fine. So, all right. So you know what? Let's do this. All right. Ready? So let me ask you something. Now, how did you get started with YouTube?
How did I get started with YouTube? It was one of those things. I was curious, and I was looking at all of these other channels, and I just felt there was a gap, because I felt like the information that I originally was looking for, and I went to YouTube to try and find it, I only found little pieces here and there, and I was like, I can't find the exact information that I'm looking for. Like when I'm learning something, I need to know everything. It's not just like I learn, A, C, and F. No, I want to know I want to know everything. I want to know everything about the process. So I was coming into breeding beta, and before obviously taking on that task, I wanted to know everything. And I mean, any single possibility that was out there that could go wrong or right, or anything, illnesses, you name it. I wanted to know everything that I could possibly run into. And I found so many different gaps, and I found that some channels were more not so much teaching, but like preaching. And I kind of didn't like the way that some people were coming across. And I decided, you know what, to hell with it. Let's do it. Let's go. And I figured that that's what I wanted to do with it. And here I am now. So,
And I think that's a great thing. I think that's a really a great thing because I know I've watched a couple of your. I mean, I watched all your videos, but I watched a couple of your videos, and one of the things I've noticed is that, especially when it comes to feeding your fry, you go really into depth on how to feed your fry and what kind of food. Because let me tell you something. When I first started breeding angelfish with my partner, the one big thing was like we would get breed after breed after breed after breed, and we just didn't know how to feed them. We're like, what the hell?
yeah.
Like, how come we just can't feed them? Like,
And I see it all the time in the beta community too. All the time.
yeah, and then I mean, and then eventually, unfortunately, well, I wouldn't say unfortunately, because throughout the process we kind of learned a lot of stuff, but unfortunately, throughout the way we kind of had to do a little bit of trial and error, which I'm sure
Yeah.
we've done a lot of that too.
Oh, oh yeah.
I feel like just from doing the trial and error, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could kind of like jump the line when you kind of have information, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna have to just jump in the trenches and just try to figure out how to do it ourselves.
Hmm.
After we, the way, and I'm sure you've definitely done this before. We started doing the live brine shrimp,
Yep.
making our, making our own brine shrimp and everything like that, and then feeding them like that. And then it became like just an explosion of fry where they actually started to grow, and it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. What was your first experience like with doing any type of fry or anything like that?
My first experience with beta fry was I was so terrified. I had this gorgeous pink rose tail, and actually his name was Wilbur. And anyone who's actually known, like, followed my journey a little bit over the past like 18 months will know that Wilbur is actually, he's like my mascot. I loved that fish. He unfortunately passed away, but you know, these things happen to, especially to beta. They don't have exactly the longest lifespan, and imports are even, it seems even less. But I was so nervous that I think that a lot of my nerves became the issue with my first spawn. My first spawn actually ended up being fairly large, and I remember just being in complete awe that within 3 days there's all these tails. Like, how can this happen so fast? There was all these tails, and I was watching the way the father would pick the babies up and put them back up in the nest. Like, he was crazy. And I actually, at one point, I thought he had died because he was nonstop, and he was laying on the bottom of the tank, just laying there gasping. And I'm like, oh man, I just killed him because I wanted him to be a father, and I felt so terrible. But like at the same time, and then all of a sudden he just swam straight back up and carried on. But I was so paranoid. Every little thing, I'm like, oh my god, he's eating them. Like, I literally would have the net. Oh no, he spat them out. It's okay. It's good. We're good. And then I'd be like, oh my god, he's doing it again. And I go to get it, and he was fine. And he actually ended up staying with the babies for a month. And something I don't recommend. I don't recommend. I actually researched this a lot before I even tried it. And being that it was my first spawn, probably not something I should have done, but I was kind of, he's not eating them, leave him there, So I did, and he stayed with them for nearly a month before he decided that he was cute and they would lunch. So
You know what though? That's the thing too. So when I first started doing the angelfish, so here's the thing. Some people are like, oh yeah, some of them are gonna raise their fry, but guess what? Some of them don't do that. And
mhm.
here's the thing: you don't really know whether they're gonna raise their fry until it's too late. You're not gonna go,
Yep,
oh, and then you're gonna go, oh, they don't raise their fry. These ones, you
yep.
you just don't know. But here's the one thing I'm gonna say though. Incubating your own fry, in my personal opinion, is better than having the parents raise that fry. The reason why is because if you're really serious about breeding, especially angelfish, um, they will spawn once every 30 days, really,
Yeah.
30 to 45 days. If you have them raise their fry. If you don't, it's usually between once every 8 and 12 days. So it's
Right.
much quicker. I mean, so if you're looking to do it at a high level and a big scale, that's literally what you want to do. Any other way to do it? I mean, I mean, again, I mean, because you're not gonna, they're not gonna come out any healthier. In fact, what you can do is when you have them raise their own fry. I'm sorry, when you raise their fry for them, you could monitor their feeding a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, what I like to do is I like to keep them in smaller tanks. When I
Right.
smaller, I mean like smaller, like 1 to 2 gallon tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, what ends up happening is the fry end up literally getting lost in the tank, and
Right.
see the food right in front of their face, they are not going to eat it. At least that's what I've seen. Have you noticed similar type of uh, results with the bettas?
With the beta, I have noticed that hand spawning, like artificially spawning, like you have your parent fish lay their eggs and put the eggs up in the nest, and then you take the, maybe you've got a male that's an egg eater, which actually I have a male that's an egg eater, and he gets extremely fat after he's eaten all of his kids. But he'll put the eggs up in the nest and like start snacking on them instantly. So um but beta fry are completely different in that matter. They have to stay up in that nest. I tried to artificially hatch beta fry. It, for me, it didn't work. I've seen people that it has worked for, by but this particular fish, his bubble nest, he spawned with a female and then completely ignored the nest. Like he put the eggs in the nest and swam away. So all of the bubbles became one whole big like one giant bubble, and it was no longer covered in the mucus that they cover it in to hold the bubbles individually, which hold the eggs, keep the eggs suspended in the nest. So there was none of that left. So if it had been a viable bubble nest, I may very well have been able to keep, a minimal couple of millimeters of water in the bottom of a, say, a lid or something like that, and keep the bubble nest over the top of them. That is a method that has been successful before, but it's beta are very, very sketchy when it comes to that. And I've also had entire spawns hatch. Father's doing great, doing a fantastic job, and all of a sudden they all just drop dead within 48 hours. I've had that happen on one occasion. I lost a huge crown tail spawn of probably about 600 fry, and I was quite upset by it. But these things happen.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed is that, you know what? No matter how good you think you are, no matter how many times you've done it, everybody has different results with what they do.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
The beautiful thing is that there really is no right or wrong way to do it.
Exactly.
There's always more than one way. So
yeah, there's always more than one way. There's always more than one opinion. There is always one or more outcomes, and there's a whole series of events that can take place in order to depict which outcome's going to happen. Or you can try your hardest to have a fish be a good father, and honestly, he's just a complete butthead, and all he wants to do is A, eat his babies, B, beat on his wife, and he's just a no good dad. I had a fish that I thought I would never get to spawn, because I mean he literally nearly killed one of my females in 3 hours. I mean, literally gashed the whole of her side open in under 3 hours. And the second female that I tried to introduce him to a couple of months later, he pretty much kicked the snot out of her as well, and she actually jumped out of the container to get away from him. And then finally I actually got a spawn from him, but I don't know if I'm brave enough to risk it again with him. They're called fighting fish for a reason, and a lot of people think, oh, they'll be fine. They were given that name, and they wear their crown with pride.
When you do you actually now? All right, now here's the one question I guess I have for this, because I've as many betas as I've sold, I've actually tried to breed them. Do you physically get like a breeding pair, or how Like how does it work with that? Like, do you get like when you like you don't have to pair them up or anything like that, right? Or do you get like
You basically you choose your adult fish. So let's just say now you want to try and keep the tail types exactly the same. So like half moon to a half moon or a crown tail to a crown tail. Just because that keeps the genetics kind of clean. You know, if you add a crown tail to a plaquette, you're kind of making a new gene pool there, and the offspring, honestly, like the form that they have may be really thrown off because it is done. I've seen it done, and honestly, I think they're absolutely beautiful, the crown tail plaquettes. But it's not really recommended. But the best thing I can suggest is getting a like male to a like female. So like if you've got a galaxy, get a galaxy with a similar tail structure. You want to make sure that if the male has a super heavy tail, you want to make sure that that female doesn't have excessive long finnage for a female. The introduction period for the fish, you have to let them see each other so they become accustomed to each other so that they will tolerate each other simply for the spawning. Because if you do not do that and you just throw them together, well, guess what? Disaster is going to happen real fast. And a lot of people don't realize that beta actually do have teeth and will shred each other to pieces really fast.
sure? And now,
Really fast.
out of the ones you've bred,
Hmm.
what are your favorite ones to breed?
Oh, all of them? No, that's not valid. My probably my favorite tail type is a crown tail. I just love how elegant they are and different. Like I love the different, but I also love to play with the marble genes. I love to see how this tiny little stripy fish goes from this little stripy fish to 6 or 7 different pattern changes before it's it's actually determined what color it wants to be. So that I like the kois because I like the color patterns and I like watching them transform from this really dull little fish to this absolutely gorgeous, the Nemos and the other kinds of koi patternage that you have out there. But the crown tails are really pretty because I love to watch the way that the finnage actually separates in the tails and the rays form between the in the tail.
Mhm.
It's very pretty to me. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, you know what, I actually kind of agree with you on that. I think koi bait is, in my personal opinion, especially some of the koi half moons. Oh my goodness, those are like,
Yeah,
yeah, those are so nice. And the thing is too, like, I can't even say too that I even have like a favorite one. Like,
I like yeah. Same with me. It's like I see it, I like it, I want it, I buy it. That's pretty much how it goes with me. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I've tried to steer away from the beauty and the beast that is a rose tail. Just because I don't think there's much you can do to fix a mutated gene. There's just, you know, and they are gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but personally, I'm trying to stay away from them as much as I love the flowing fins. I love the way that, the rays overlap in the tail fin. They're just absolutely stunning, but also at the same time, it's kind of heartbreaking because they just they're kind of a mutant. They're not supposed to be that way.
you ever see? Not all of my rose tails do this, but you haven't. I mean, I've noticed a lot of them. If there's a little too much current in the tank, they have a really hard time swimming.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, with rose tails, I don't like having any kind of filtration in the tank at all. And if they do have a filter, definitely be a sponge filter. And I would prefer to get like a longer tank so that you can lower the level so that it's very, very shallow, but still have like the 3 or 4 gallons, but they don't have as much distance to work to get to the surface. Being that they're a labyrinth fish and they have to get to the surface. When you've got, if you've got 3 sets of clothes on and you're trying to swim in the ocean and get to the surface to breathe, I mean, can you imagine how hard it would be to get there every single time, you know? So,
I, what I've noticed, in my personal opinion, the best swimmers are probably the plackets.
oh, easily. Yeah, I mean, they're streamlined, you know, they're the original fighters. So they're definitely, and actually, they've been kind of proven through the years to be resistant to other, you know, some of the more common tank illnesses because they're just a healthier fish all around. They don't have the stress of the water to pull them down. They don't have the stress of the big long fins that they're trying to actually bite off their own bodies.
Yeah.
So, you know, it really is a great choice for a beginner. They are feisty and full of character and personality and very, very good jumpers, particularly placats. And the half moon females I found to be wonderful jumpers.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I'll tell you right now, not even just the jumping. So a lot of people have this weird type of like stigma towards female bettas. Like, oh, they're not really very beautiful, whatever. Let me tell you something. Some of the females I have are like insane looking.
I have some phenomenal females
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
are
I don't know if
just,
people like, oh, they're not as beautiful as the males. What? I mean, why? Because they don't have long streaming fins. Some of them are
yeah.
like amazing looking.
Yeah, and that's again, that's why a lot of people kind of steer away from the plaquette because, well, they don't have the big long fins, you know. And whilst the big long fins are beautiful and they're, you know, they're just visually stimulating when you see them swimming and that, you know, that big fin is waving through the water. A lot of people don't realize that, especially the way that they've been bred excessively to get that really, you know, extended branching on their tails. It's actually quite damaging to them. And if people aren't breeding for balance and breeding for too long of fins, then that fish is going to have a lesser quality of life. And unfortunately, you know, that's kind of the way it is, you know.
Yeah, you know, everyone wants the fish with the biggest fins. They all
Oh,
want,
absolutely.
and honestly, it's not my personal opinion. You want good stuff, get fish with good colors on them.
Yeah.
Good colors are you can have healthy fish with good colors.
Hmm.
Big long fins just are not always like you said. Like said stuff like the rose tails. It's just
Yeah.
not even You know what I've noticed too, and then now this is not for all of them. I'm not talking about for every one of them, but like a lot of the Dumbos I noticed are like that too. They have really long fins.
Hmm.
When I first get a lot of my Dumbos, even like from my wholesaler, a lot of times as compared to some of the other ones, they like kind of slouch on the bottom. They're like
Yeah, I mean,
a couple days at least.
yeah, I've also noticed that now I've actually never kept a Dumbo beta. I don't know why. I think they're beautiful, but I've never actually like taken that plunge. I've just been obsessed with everything else that I have. So but I have noticed, I don't know if you've ever really watched your fish swim. They don't really swim with their tails. They swim with their pectoral fins.
Right, they do.
So if the Dumbo is working like 5 times as hard to move those tiny little pectoral fins, it's going to get exhausted really, really fast. So again, excessive branching, you know.
Absolutely, and that's which actually brings me to my next thing. So I would say the thing with at least what I've noticed, and this is the mistake I think a lot of people make. Betas absolutely need a lot of plants.
They need a lot of resting places. Hmm.
If you don't have that, you are literally setting yourself up for disaster. Even
Absolutely.
that is, in my personal opinion, everything in the setup's important, but plants are just like super because you can have the best filtration on the planet. If you don't
Doesn't matter.
plants in your tank, off the bat, you are just not doing it right. That you need it. You really do. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, especially the way that, you know, it's honestly like you'll see a lot of people refer to betas as being like probably the most abused fish in the trade.
Oh,
And for a lot of it, I do stand by it because a lot of people are just so misinformed that they think, well, you know, well, they live in puddles in the wild. Well, I mean, this isn't a wild fish. And if you look at the original wild beta, you don't see rose tails in the wild. You don't see half moons in the wild. You see, you know, everything that you see in the stores is man-made. It's genetically made by men. You know, we've played with these things for over 200 years, and this is what they are today. Same as goldfish. Another, in my opinion, another absolutely beautiful species. Another very, very misunderstood species, and another one that, you know, people again just think, well, the goldfish, they live in dirty ponds. No,
No,
you are completely wrong.
well,
They do not like dirty water.
here's what I'm going to say about goldfish, and this is goldfish even and koi.
Mm-hmm.
They do not belong in fish tanks.
Nope.
I'm not saying you can't have them in like in a big fish tank, but I would definitely not even ever tell someone to do that. Goldfish, maybe some of the varieties, but koi, absolutely
Absolutely not. No,
not.
no, no, no.
No.
Mm-mm.
A koi, a fish plank is a fish plank. Listen to me. A fish tank is not a good place for a koi.
Absolutely not.
Honestly, even a small pond is not a place for a koi. You need a really nice sized pond. I mean, koi get like huge, like this. You know, like they get like 2-3 feet long. Think about it. It would be like if you lived your whole life in your kitchen, unless you live in a mansion. But you know, I mean, if you know, it would literally be like that, and you don't want to do that. That's not even like that's horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For one, you need to have some sort of hiding spots, whether it be coverage on the top or whether it be some sort of caves. And it's got to be somewhat deep. That way they can kind of dive down. And also, they need some surface area to swim. If you ever look at their bodies, they're literally built like torpedoes.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to swim. That's all they're supposed to do.
Yep.
Goldfish, I mean, like personally, goldfish, if you want to grow them to a huge size, a 300-gallon pond, something like that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them, because you know what it is, if you look at their bodies, besides pond comets, a lot of the goldfish are built like softballs.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really meant to like. They're not fast swimmers. They're not anything like that. They swim nice and slow. They like to eat a lot. That's another thing too. If you don't feed them properly, they're not going to grow good.
Mm-hmm.
You need to feed them a lot. They need to hide a lot. They shouldn't be in direct sunlight all day long because that's just as bad. And yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, from what I've noticed, that's definitely what you need for that kind of stuff. And I do think that they're actually one of the most abused animals in the
Yeah,
fish.
absolutely. I completely agree with that, because you know, and another thing is, when people buy that tiny little comet, they don't realize that they're gonna get to like a foot long. Like
Absolutely.
no one actually realizes this. So like when someone says, "Oh, you can get away with a 30-gallon tank, 30-gallon per goldfish,"
You're what,
no, no, I'm sorry, that's like putting a beta in a cup. You shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that it hasn't been done and it hasn't been done successfully. I'm sure it has somewhere, but it's not right. You
No,
know, it's not right. It's like, so another thing people don't realize is that fancy goldfish such as Ryukin, the butterfly telescopes, moors, all of fantail kind of species, again, man-made. We butchered their lines in order to make them look like balls with fins, and a lot of people don't realize that they've been designed for looking down on. So when you're looking at them from the side, they're not exactly the most beautiful looking animals, but when you look down on them, to me, I can't, just watching them just slowly like fly along, fly with their little butterfly tails. You know, they're so beautiful, and that different vision and looking down on them will change your whole perspective on how you look at certain fish.
You know what? I am really glad you brought that up because that's something that I feel like most people should know when it comes to shopping for koi and goldfish. So, all right, just so that you
Look down,
yeah,
not at them. Look down on them.
just so that everyone knows, when we see, again, this is a little late night, otherwise I'd be in front of my setup. Well, our setup, the way we have it, we have 300-gallon stock tanks.
Yep.
When we have people come over and they look at them, first of all, the sides of the stock tank are black. Obviously, they're stock tanks. They're like trough. You should. I mean, goldfish, you can somewhat get away with it. Koi, you need to look at it from the top. You
Yeah.
have no idea what you're getting until you look at them like that. The fish might look completely different from the
Mm-hmm.
bottom to from the top. You absolutely that is 100% how you shop for a koi. What
Absolutely.
and I would if you're gonna put it in a number, I would say 95% of that pattern is on the top.
Absolutely. And actually, if you look at the names and the meanings of the names, I forget the actual Japanese name of it, but one of the names actually means fallen autumn leaves. And if you think about it, when you're looking at water, and if it's got autumn leaves on the water, what are you doing? You're looking down on it.
Yeah,
So
of course.
that the fish, the names that they have depicts what you see when you look down on them, not what you see when you're looking at the side of them, because they're not meant to be seen from the side so much.
Yeah.
They're made for looking down. They've been designed to look down on and view from above.
Well, I mean,
So,
if you look at the way that their body is shaped,
mhm,
so their undercarriage is pretty flat. It's basically, so yeah, I don't know if you ever seen this, but like sometimes, like when you first put koi into a pond, they'll lay flat in the bottom like this, like with just their wings nice and spread out, and they'll
mhm,
bottom. Whereas a lot of fish, when if they do that, you'll see they're going to rock back and forth like this because they need to keep themselves afloat. Koi don't need to do that. Koi can actually sit in the bottom flat.
yep,
And that's 100. And that's another thing too. So that brings me to my next point of how to pick a koi out. When you're picking a koi out, everything should go by, for one, I mean, obviously it's got to be a color that you like. Number two, what I like is symmetry. So both fins should be pretty similar sized.
yep,
Well, not pretty similar. They should be almost exactly the same size, shape. And obviously you want to make sure that the fish is healthy. That way it doesn't have like skinny fins or like just really any types of deformities. And the one thing I will tell you too is that when the koi is under probably 8 inches long, there's very, very little way to tell whether it's a male or a female.
yeah,
That's another thing too.
mhm.
It's a male or female, and they're looking at like a 3 inch koi, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. They're still babies. And another thing people don't realize, um, for me, it's a pretty good point, I think, because again, when people go to the stores and they see these tiny little 3.5 inch koi swimming around in a tank, or these tiny little ryukin or pearl scales or whatever, 9 times out of 10, these people bring them home not realizing exactly what they need, first of all. Second of all, a goldfish and a koi. Actually, I'm not so sure about the koi, but the goldfish, certainly, the majority of their growth happens in the first year. So if you mess that first year up of their diet and what they need to be given, like these tiny little goldfish are fry. They're babies. They're not a year old. And if they're a year old and they're this big, there's something wrong with that fish. It's been poorly looked after, it's been poorly raised, and the breeder is garbage. So, you know, you when a goldfish reaches a year, it should be a pretty sizable fish,
Yeah.
you know.
Here's one thing too, and this is something that I know you will definitely know. So, you ever notice when you raise fry, within even no matter what fry you raise, within like 2 or 3 weeks, the fry is like triple the size.
Hmm.
So basically, well, first of all, here's one that people don't really know either. So when you breed koi, I'm not even kidding you. Just to give you an idea, a fry is about the size of my pinky now. Sometimes,
Hmm.
and that little fry turns into this, like what I mean?
Hmm.
That's so basically that's where they hold on a second. Hold on. Hey, come here. What are you doing?
Puppy problems.
Yeah, she's being a scotch. Come here. Come here. Go ahead, go in the room. See mommy. So basically, the fry grow super fast.
Yep.
And if you don't, and also too, which that's a whole nother thing. I was going to talk about culling, but culling is a whole nother thing. But they
Yeah.
grow fast. And if you don't, but here's the thing: if you don't give them the proper diet, you know what happens? The bigger ones end up eating the smaller ones.
Yeah. Well, they've got to survive. It's survival of the fittest.
100%.
And it will happen in your fish tank, and it will happen in the wild. That's just the way,
Yep.
there's certain traits you can't take out of an animal. I mean, you can, you know, you can keep a dog on a leash, but it's still going to chase a cat. I mean, it's got a prey drive. Fish want to survive. Even my beta, and I know beta are little sharks. Like, they are so brutal. I've caught my fry swimming around, and this is after they've been fed 4 times a day, 4 meals a day, and I've still caught them swimming around with the smaller ones in their mouths.
Yep.
So
it's completely unavoidable. That's why with koi, and even here's the thing too. Even with koi, sometimes this is unavoidable. If you do cull them, you could kind of avoid that a little bit by getting the similar size fish with the similar size.
trying to keep them as a good medium.
Yeah, but in all reality, there's no way to stop that.
No.
There's just no. They eventually, and even if you feed them, it's just going to happen. But if you feed them the right way, it's going to happen less, less and less and less. And then, not to mention too, here's the thing: the one foolish thing is thinking that you're gonna breed a fish, and every single one of them is going to survive. No such thing. Especially koi. Every once in a while, yes, some of the fry are just not going to live.
Yeah.
When they give birth to 500,000 eggs, you're not going to get 500,000 fry.
No.
First of all, I don't care what size your facility is. No facility is prepared to take on 500,000 fish. That's so many. It's not to mention, who's going to sell that many? No one's selling.
Exactly. And actually, that brings me to a good point too. Is a lot of the fish that we see in the stores and are available, those are breeders' picks 9 times out of 10. Yep. Those are the ones are the healthiest and have the most sellability. You will find that a lot of serious breeders, actually perfectly good and able fish, will be called out because they're just not going to sell. It might be the right size, but maybe it has a blemish in its color pattern. They take it straight out and they get rid of it because they don't want someone possibly tainting a line. And it's true in the beta breeding too. Goldfish breeding, any kind of breeding, any serious breeder will do exactly the same thing. And a lot of people absolutely hate talking about culling. Oh, well, you're cruel, you're mean. No, we're trying to conserve the species the way they're supposed to be conserved. If I sell you a fish with a crooked spine, are you going to be okay with that? I won't let anything leave my fish room, which you can't see obviously because I have tonight it's a white screen, not a green screen. But I don't let anything come out of my fish room that is not 100% perfect to me. All the standards that I have, everything that I have learned in the past couple of years of keeping beta, and I'm relatively new to beta, but when I say I'm OCD, I mean I am OCD. Like, I need to know everything. And if I think that I don't know it, I go and read it. And I will spend hours, countless hours, researching until I think that I've mastered it, and still I don't know everything. I haven't learned everything, and I don't, my journey is pretty much only just beginning, really. Watch this space.
Well, you know what it comes down to? I mean, think about it. In the wild, I would have to think less than 1%.
Oh, easy.
Actually live.
Why do you think they give birth to such big broods? You know.
Of course, and that's the only way to keep it where it's actually manageable. I mean, think about it. I mean, can you imagine if someone gives birth to 500,000
and they all survive?
Whatever lake or river they're in, that's one female. Imagine if there's 10 females doing that.
Yep.
It would be overrun so quick that it would be sickening. Sickening. You can't even. It's not even possible to do that.
And also, actually, when certain species, they actually give birth to huge spawns and then actually cannibalize them, because let's just say, for instance, these fry didn't hatch at the right time of the season and there's a shortage of food. Those parent fish need to save themselves, so they eat the babies. And and that's not so much of a a survival of the fittest as such, but I mean maybe one or two will survive, maybe three or four actually manage to get away. But it's more to the point that these animals are acting in ways that we don't actually understand, because we don't have to particularly act like that, but it's crazy when you actually try and break down what they would do in the wild and why they do things. And it, to me, it just like, it blows my mind, it fascinates me, and I could literally geek out for years, just years. I've always been fascinated with the animal kingdom, and I have little ecosystems in my fish room that just never cease to amaze me.
You know what? That's why. And you know the thing is too. I think to become a successful fish keeper, you have to know that kind of stuff, or at least be somewhat interested in it, because
Oh,
that's what makes fish keeping so amazing. Because you could literally recreate perfect environments for certain fish, and you can
yeah.
literally watch how they react in the wild. And you know what? I'll tell you what. This is something that we're talking about weird. Most people don't realize that fish, and besides some of them eating their young, we're not as different as people think. Like when like they live in a different environment, but if you look at how they react to certain things, it's very similar. Like so like the fish that do actually raise their fry, you go near their fry, they will literally attack you. Stuff
Yep.
like you'd be very surprised what fish will do, how they react. I mean, which that literally tells me right there that fish do feel a certain way. They do think as they do think.
It's instinct. It's instinct. And some fish have a stronger instinct than others, just like parents. Some parents have a better motherly skills, not skills, but motherly instinct, a better mother-child bond than, and I mean, that's humanizing the terms, so to speak. But like, there's some fish that are fantastic parents, and then there's other fish of exactly the same species, exactly the same age, exactly the same water, that just suck at it. There's fish that just, they create the babies and then just eat the babies, and then there's fish that create the babies and raise the babies. You know, so
Yeah,
it's
I completely agree, and that's definitely that is something that I really do feel like a lot of people don't really understand that, and that's like
mhm.
they're not all created equal. Some of them are definitely
It's completely differently.
each other, and they're definitely some of them, like I said, are just better at like I said, they're just better at it. Like for example, take koi for example. They don't raise their babies at all. They do
Nope.
nothing of the sort. Not
Nope.
close. In fact, they will eat every
Every
single
single one of them, if they had the chance
thing they have
to.
a chance to.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's just unfortunately that is just the way it is.
And
That's
that's just to keep them surviving. I mean, it's crazy when you think about the situations that we actually put these. I mean, if you've got a 3 foot koi, and she produces all of those eggs that get fertilized, and they're in just that pond. If she didn't eat all of them, and they didn't eat all of them, can you imagine? It would look like koi soup. It would. Can you imagine all the babies at like 20 days old, when they're like, an inch and a half, 2 inches long nearly, and they're all just swimming like crazy, and then this giant fish just chomping them down. It's
like
it's crazy. If the adult fish didn't naturally predate on their own children, as wrong as that may be,
real quick.
we would be overrun.
You want to know what I just noticed? All right, so I'm actually on the I'm on the chat right now. So apparently we've actually had a lot of comments on here. I didn't even notice that.
Oh,
We do actually have 4 people watching right now too.
yay! Thank you.
So thank you everyone for watching. I mean we're not done yet, but thank you everyone for watching, and thank you everyone for commenting. Looks like we have a pretty good amount of people. So I definitely I definitely do appreciate it.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And
that's
don't everyone needs to like and subscribe to Paul's channel. And if you haven't done already, I would appreciate the subscriptions to my channel too. So don't leave
great.
me hanging.
you know what, and that's just it too. Like that's so I feel like I mean, just in general, I mean, the knowledge of the fish and of the actual environment is just, in my opinion, it's the most important thing. And that's how, like I said before, that's how you become a successful fish keeper.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I mean, think about it too. Like, I know for a fact, I don't think you started off right off the bat as a breeder. You obviously started off as a fish keeper. And
Do you want to hear the story of how it happened?
sure, let's hear it.
I walked into a pet store. I saw a male and a female, and I wanted them. And Rice and Sushi were my first ever beta, and they are the ones that are responsible for my obsession with fish. And I walked out with these two little cups, and I was just like, "You're gonna be my friends forever." Like these two little fish were like, I finally had fish again. Like I used to keep fish as as a child, and I worked in a fish room when I was younger. I actually ran an aquatic shop when I was younger, but I'd been out of the hobby for so many years, and then I fell in love with these two little beta, and I actually was under the same spell because honestly, I'll be completely dead honest. I knew nothing about them. Not a damn thing. I bought them, I brought them home, and I kept them for 24 hours. I researched them, and then I realized what I did, and I was like, we're fixing this. The next day, I had them all set up, and it's been a snowball ever since, and I'm sure my husband is kind of not exactly happy with everything.
Well, and you know, here's one thing too, and I know everyone's gonna relate to this. It always just starts out with one aquarium.
Yeah, that's exactly. It was a little aquarium. It was literally like this big, and actually, it was the worst thing. Don't ever buy them. The aquarium Beaufront, Aquion. I can't say it. They're like little mini Beaufront tanks, and they come with a filter in them, and they've got the LED lights. Don't buy them. They really are no good for beta. Mine actually ate my male veil tail's tail completely off.
Oof.
Like, yeah, and I had no idea. I didn't know it was going to do it. The flow is so strong that it's just too powerful for the beta. And you'd be surprised considering this filter is literally this big.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at how strong the suction is and the flow. Like if Rice swam into it, he literally got like thrown into the bottom of the tank.
Really
and I tried to like make all kinds of adjustments. I just ripped it out. I was like, nope. And then when it ate his tail off completely, I was just, because I put extra sponge in the front of it to stop the flow from being so wicked. And when the filter actually ate his tail like completely off, and actually if you look at him now, you can see the scar line where the tail was gone. It was heartbreaking. Like I literally cried over it because I'm a sap, but you know.
Now, you know what? Listen, you know what? There's nothing wrong. First of all, nothing wrong with crying over fish. I mean,
I get heartbroken, like legitimately. Like, what did I do? This is my fault.
Fortunately for me, I don't cry over anything because I'm made of steel.
Yeah.
Anything. But it's definitely not abnormal to to do anything like
just
that.
Feel so responsible. Like I just feel so guilty if like anything goes wrong in my fish room. I'm like, what did I do wrong? How did I mean, the fish could have jumped out of the tank all on its own, and it would still be my fault because obviously I didn't have a lid on it, or I didn't have something that was blocking access for it to get out. My heater could malfunction and fry the fish. Well, that's not my fault, but it's my fault. Like, it just makes me I feel so guilty for the whenever I lose a fish, and it doesn't matter whether it's, a day old or 3 years old. I was completely upset, but I don't know if everyone else knows. I have a Thai silk flower horn, and he's got a big scratch up his side because he must have got caught in one of the rocks, which I kind of need in there because he tries to eat my pleco. So he's an absolute bully. Like she's the pleco. I call it a she because I think it's a female. It just by its body, but he literally like batters this thing around the tank. She never has any marks on her or anything like that, but I always make sure there's like plenty of places for her to hide that he can't get into. So I think he may have just like, you know, swam straight into something and then had to back out, and I think that's probably what happened. But I was devastated. I was so upset. I was like, why did I choose rocks? Why? You know? So now I'm debating ripping everything out, taking the pleco out, putting her somewhere else, and that's most likely what's going to happen. He's just going to be plain Jane. He's going to have nothing in his tank, and oh well, you did it.
You know what? Can we talk about plecos for a minute? Because plecos
Yeah.
are a really misunderstood thing.
Yes, they are.
Exactly why they're misunderstood. People go, oh, I'm going to buy a pleco so I can get rid of the algae in my tank. I'll tell you why. Plecos don't just eat algae. All right. Plecos actually eat almost everything. I mean, you can feed them like the algae wafers, but in my personal opinion, the smartest thing to feed plecos is stuff like squash, stuff like zucchini, stuff that they can physically eat. Like algae is all good and great, but algae is very finite. And also, once it eats it, it's going to be very hard for it to grow back. As plecos, if there's food, yeah, they're going to find it probably first, faster than anything else in your tank. And I think that's one thing that people really need to understand is that plecos love to eat, and they love to eat a lot. If you want to grow the right another fish within the first year, plecos should be like nice, like they should get really big. If it's not in the proper size tank and it's not eating the proper food, it is not going to do that. Also, plecos love to hide. They love dark places. Putting a pleco in a tank with no hiding spaces is just asking.
You're going to stress it out. Yeah. I mean, you're literally going to make it die of heart attack. So
yeah, easily. And that's the thing too, is that a lot of the fish that you buy in your local fish stores or from whoever you buy them from, a lot of those fish are not meant to be kept in wide open tanks. The only fish that should really be kept like that are schooling fish. And let's be straight up honest. Most fish that you're going to buy are not schooling fish.
No, and actually, another misconception is schooling fish themselves. The reason a schooling fish schools 9 times out of 10 is because it's vulnerable. It's slower than the rest. So it's a survival of numbers. You know, if you're a giant ball of mackerel, you know, and a shark comes through and gets like 15 of you, well, you know what? The other 3 trillion have managed to get away back to their safety in numbers. Visually, it's confusing for a predator to pick one out. And that's why there are schooling fish that feel quite safe swimming in an open body of water because that's what they got to do. Because a predator is going to have a hard time, unless obviously you've got whales or, you know, other, you know, maybe catfish or something that's going to gulp a huge amount of them in one hit. Most predators try to pick one out and they single it out and they eat it. So it's survival of numbers, it's confusion of vision, and again, they do like things to try and cover themselves with if they can.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it has to do with like it's usually the weakest one in the group.
Yes.
What they'll normally do is they'll like let's take like a swordfish or a marlin. Straight through the school. It's going to try to break the school up. That way, they're just boom dispersing like that. And then the one that's the easiest one, because I mean, obviously, take something. I mean, a marlin is 100%. That's a predator.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna swim faster than pretty much any fish it's gonna be against. And it's just basically it's just gonna make the fish try to get away from the school, and then boom, it's gonna hit it. That's what you do. That is the rhyme or reason to do it. Again, they're gonna try to pick out the weakest ones. Sometimes it's not always the case. Sometimes they just get whatever one they can get. And that's just it. I mean, and believe it or not, a lot of the fish that people buy in their local fish stores are not that much different than that.
Actually and taking it back to plecos, a lot of people don't realize absolutely massive differences in their diets, depending on where they're from, what bodies of water they're from, and depending on their growth rates. And there's so many different diets that these fish adapt to. Like I heard a story a while back. I can't remember exactly where it was, but this person thought that his fish was dead, and somehow the pleco disappeared. Well, he went back to that tank like 6 months later and found the pleco in there, still the same size. It hadn't been fed. The water was filthy, and it was still somehow alive. So these fish can not only tolerate major, I mean, never ever keep your fish in disgusting water, because that's cruel, but it's amazing how versatile these fish are, and the survival tactics that these fish have. It's quite remarkable. And again, with feeding, there's some plecos that prefer a completely vegetable diet. There's some plecos that absolutely need driftwood in their diets, and there's plecos that need meat in their diets. So you really got to pay attention. And with over, I can't even remember how many is, I'm going to easily say over 200 species of pleco, you really need to research the ones you get. And a lot of the information out there's new species being discovered literally by the week.
Yeah.
So you really have to delve deep when it comes to plecos, because a lot of people make mistakes. And not only do they make mistakes with diet, they make the mistakes with size. Your average common pleco will make well, they will get real big. Like people don't realize they can exceed 1.5 feet long with like pretty much no problem,
Oh my God, yeah, plecos get gigantic, and that's the thing too. Like, so that's one thing I want to talk about here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We actually do get wild plecos here. So
Commons.
when you get plecos that are wild, I'm not even kidding you. The common ones, they're literally like all the way
Yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
They're gigantic, and that's the thing too. Like, honestly, I mean, me personally, when a pleco gets to a certain size, it should really be kept in a humongous fish tank
Mm-hmm.
or a pond.
A pond.
And honestly,
Yeah.
if you don't live in an area like this one, like where I live, where it's nice and warm all year round, probably not the smartest fish to even have. You
No.
want something to clean your glass? Get snails. Snails
Yeah.
are better. They get this big, maybe mystery snails. They're not gonna I mean, think about it. When a pleco gets to a certain size, yeah, they're not really predators, but guess what? When it gets to 9, 10 inches
If
long,
you're not, yeah, and if you're not supporting its diet enough, it's gonna eat your fish.
it's gonna
Like,
eat whatever's in the tank. You know what? It's still a scavenger. It's what it
it's
does.
still gotta survive. It's gotta eat to live.
Right, and that's how fish are, and they're like that. And here's the one thing, and I think that people really get wrong, is that just because your tank is a bigger size doesn't mean anything. And I'll tell you why. Because as the fish gets bigger, it's going to require more food, and you know what? The more you got to feed the fish,
The more it's gonna.
it's going to poop, and the tank is going to get fouled up much quicker.
Yep.
There's no rhyme. There's no right or wrong way to do that. Just the biggest thing is just give it what it needs, and don't just throw your fish in the river when it gets too big.
No. Take it back take it back. Join your groups. Make sure that you are in. There's many groups out there that are like specifically for particular breeds of fish. If you do the work to find it, or if you just post it into any fish group, someone will help you relocate that fish.
Yep.
Someone will be able to. Like, there's such a huge problem with invasive species that are killing off native species, because a lot of invasive species are fish such as the common pleco that can adapt to pretty much any living situation.
Yeah,
And people just don't get it.
Doesn't mean it actually can't. Some fish can adapt pretty, especially in an area like where I live in Florida. These waters don't get particularly freezing during the wintertime. So
No.
most of the fish that in fact, think about it here. You want to hear something? This is something that I was talking about not too long ago with my brother Michael. We were talking about how think about it. A lot of these rivers and these lakes, some of them are 20 feet deep, 30 feet
Yeah.
deep. You know what the temperature's like 30 feet deep? It's cold. It's not, and I don't mean 60 degrees cold. I'm talking about like 50 degrees, like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. A lot of these fish are a lot hardier than what you would even think.
Yeah.
They live in conditions that you would never believe they can live in, but they can.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of those fish. So yeah, I mean that's 100%. That's what I'd definitely say. Also, here's what we can do, Holly. I think we're gonna go ahead and probably end the stream real quick because
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes, my computer is probably gonna die. I want you to go ahead and go ahead and make a final statement, whatever you think, and then we'll go ahead and end it.
I think my final statement is be responsible with everything. With your goals, always dream big and achieve them. Like you can achieve anything. Do your research, look into everything, and if you can't find it, reach out to your communities. There's so many communities, so many great communities that we're all a part of that we can all reach out to and help each other. And I want to say a huge thank you for actually doing the live stream with me. First of all, second of all, thank you for helping work out everything, because that was just no, that was bad. That was bad. So sorry for the hiccups in the start there, because yeah, me and modern technology just don't. We're not very good. We're not friends yet. We've got to work on our relationship. So
There's plenty of time. The one thing I'm going to say too, and thank you for that. I want to say, first of all, thank you to you for joining me on my live stream.
oh, absolutely.
And also, I want to thank you for being a part of the Green Oasis Farms team and helping us with whatever we need help with.
Team Weirdo.
Exactly. And you know what? I want to say definitely, if anyone needs any advice or anyone has any questions, we're a really helping team. We will definitely be able to help you. And if we can't,
Absolutely.
we do. But there's one thing and one thing only that you have to always do, and that's just, you know what? Keep it weird.
Keep it weird.
That is definitely what you got to do anyway. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Have a great night, and thank you.
Good night.
Right.